together.
Forget all of the great things you did. When did I throw away faith for the impossible? How did I start to believe you aren't sufficient for me? Why do I talk myself out of seeing miracles? You are more than able. You are more than able.
put my trust in the one who still does miracles. You do miracles. You are more than able. You are, you are more than able. You are more than able. You are more than able. Who am I to deny what the Lord can do? Can you imagine, with all of the faith in the room, what the Lord can do? Oh, what the Lord can do. It's gonna happen. Just let the way make it through. Oh, He's gonna move. Oh, He's gonna move. Can you imagine, with all of the faith in the room, what the Lord can do? Yes, what the Lord can do. Oh, it's gonna happen. Just let the way make it through. Oh, He's gonna move. He's gonna move. Can you imagine, with all of the faith in the room, what the Lord can do? What the Lord can do, yes. It's gonna happen. Just let the way make it through. Oh, He's gonna move. He's gonna move. Anything is possible. Anything is possible, yes. Anything is possible. Who am I to deny what the Lord can do? Anything is possible, yes. Anything is possible, Lord. Anything is possible. Who am I to deny what the Lord can do? Sing anything. Anything is possible. I know. Anything is possible. Sing it out. Anything is possible. Who am I to deny what the Lord can do? Who am I to deny what the Lord can do? Who am I to deny what the Lord can do? I believe it is so.
You are more than able. 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 Who am I to deny what the Lord can do?
I just want you to know I've been praying all week for you to be able to go out and use that reverse offering and just really bless others. Because ultimately, it's not about our glory. It's not about Tribe's glory. It's giving our Father the glory. He is our hope. Here is where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. And here is This is my surrender, and I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to, and I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Surrender all. Here is where I lay down every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay down every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender, and I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to, and I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to, yeah. And I will make room for you, only you, to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to, and I will make room for you, Jesus, to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. So we have a choice, Lord. Have your way, Lord. Have your way. We surrender all to you, Lord. Shake up the ground for my tradition, break down the walls for my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground for my tradition, break down the wall for my religion. Your way is better. Yes, your way is better. Shake up the ground for my tradition, break down the wall for my religion. Your way is better. Oh, your way is better. Shake up the ground for my tradition, break down the wall for my religion. Your way is better. Oh, your way is better, and I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to, and I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Here in this place. is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. You're all I'm chasing now. This is my surrender. This is my surrender.
Good morning. Man, it's been a
Good
while.
morning, Tribe Church. You all awake or what? It's been a while since we've been up here, Jeff. It might be the last time for a little bit.
No, we can do better than those last bozos have been doing it for.
Yeah, those are kind of weak, but
Those
anyway.
jokers, they ain't got nothing on us.
That's true. Well, my name's Phil. I'm part of the leadership team. And what was your name?
I'm Jeff Bohannon, executive pastor here at Tribe Church.
That was rude.
And we
Well, I do
your
have some big news. Big news. We have a shock drop over here. And we got the Tribe bracelets reimagined, red and white. Have them in 4 sizes. And yes,
got
we
one.
have bigger
I got
sizes
one.
because I actually have one on my wrist and hasn't broken 3 weeks. All the way down to real small. So get your bracelets while they last.
I have one. Some people are special.
I
have
think
one.
they're free. Crazy. Shock drop for free. You can't beat it.
All sizes are free.
Even the big ones are free.
I think I'm gonna be like Nathan, and I'm just gonna read everything. So Tribe Together is today. Today.
When is it?
9:47 a.m. at 000000. Nailed it. So
got
Tribe
that one.
Together is today. And if you want any more information about what we do here or how we got started, I promise I'm not the one doing it. It's people that are way better at talking than I am, so that's today if you want to stay after. See, I already got an approval.
We got an amen.
Yes, today.
Today.
Right after second service.
After second service. Our next thing, we have the IF gathering. If you feel like gathering, you can do it here, August 12th,
Nice.
right here from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you want to register for this amazing event, and go to the app, and you can register there. There's all kinds of cool things in the app.
In the app. And you can get notifications if you set your profile up correctly. It works fabulous. I'm just letting everybody know. Set your profile. All right, next. Baptism is next Sunday, August
Sunday.
13th. And I understand it's going to be a little bit different and it's going to be a little bit special. Now, every baptism is special, but this one is extra special. So if you want to get down with that, text 317-527-4432. Baptism.
Baptism.
Next week.
Also next week, we have a fun little event on Sundays called the Annex for our kids, and it's right down the road here, like 2 doors actually, not the road. And you can hang out with Jason and Lisa and all the other fun people that do fun things for our kids. And it is from 4 to 5:30.
And it's not us.
It's not me.
It's not us. No.
Yeah, sometimes I come.
As you heard somebody say earlier, people are tired of us already.
They said
We've been
amen.
up here for 30 seconds and they're already sick
Yeah,
of
it'll be
us.
another 6 weeks before we're up here, buddy.
Maybe November. We'll see. All right. Tribe groups. That's a good announcement there. Tribe groups are starting again. They're going to begin September 11th. September 11th. It's my anniversary the day after. And it's Fonda's birthday. I learned that. So the next day.
Probably shouldn't have said that.
What?
She's not going to like that.
Well, it's week to week whether she really likes me or not anyways. But tribe groups are starting September 11th, and if you want to host or if you want to be a part of a group, text that same number, our favorite number, 317-527-4432.
A lot of us already have that saved in our phone as Tribe.
It should, yes, and our profile is saved on the app, too.
Hey, there you go.
Some of us just excel.
Tribe
Some of us
groups
don't.
highly recommended if you want to get to know people and be part of a group and just get to know everybody. It's
Is
a
this
good
new
time.
music? Did we talk past
I
that?
think
or
that that's
Yes!
that's
We
like
nailed
the
it.
last slide is text new to 317-527-4432 if you're new and you want to get acquainted with some people. If you do that, I might give you a call. So if you see a 219 number, it's not a spam call, it's me. But I'll leave you a message. You don't have to call me back.
All right. This is my favorite time. I like to get loud during this time. It's the end of announcements where you can greet the people around you for 30 seconds. Look, we ran out of
Social
music again.
30 and
Is that it? Good morning, Tribe Church. I am so excited to be preaching the second week of our Give Hope series. You're supposed to be excited about that. This is our favorite time of year, honestly, every year, because we really love just giving stuff away. So I hope you enjoy the bracelets. I want to tell just a tiny story about that. When we decided we wanted to bring back the Love People bracelets, specifically Phil was like, Carrie, I know they make bigger ones. Like, find the bigger bracelets. This is so cool, though, guys. He's like, find the bigger bracelets. And I was like, absolutely, I will do that. So I found the bigger bracelets, but guess what I found when I found the bigger bracelets? Tiny bracelets for babies. They're so cute. I literally can't. So that's just like a thing. Like when you accommodate one and it's just cool. It's just cool, you guys. It's a fun series. Last week, Pastor Matt said that it is our goal to teach you through this series something that you probably think you know how to do, but maybe you don't know how to do. Not how to give. We've all been parts of random acts of kindness. I was part of a couple of random acts of kindness today that were super cool. But actually, how to be generous. How to be generous. We want to teach you how to be generous because some of us have gotten so good at giving that we're not actually generous, okay? And our goal isn't to teach you how to do something. We want to teach you through this series how to be something. Because the fact is that everybody gives. And sometimes that masks the fact that very few of us are actually generous. And the reason that we're not all generous is that not that no one ever taught us how to give, it's because no one ever taught us how to be generous. Because generosity is more than just random acts of giving, okay? Like we've all been part of random acts of giving. I'm all for random acts of giving, and I hope for the rest of your life you look for opportunities to be a part of random acts of giving. A random act of giving is when you find out that your neighbor is in trouble and you just pull out your wallet. Or you give away clothes that your child has outgrown to someone who needs them or just wants them. Somebody at work is going through a rough time and you make a donation. That's a random act of giving. But for some of you here today is really good timing. This series could not have hit at a better time for you because you don't want to keep living as a person who just lives doing random acts of giving. You want to live generously, but you just don't know where to start. This morning, we're going to start with Pastor Matt's clunky definition of the word generous. Generous is the premeditated. That means that you plan it out. Calculated, that means you know the amount. Designated, that means you know where it's going. Emancipation, you're setting it free of personal financial assets. We know that there are lots of ways that you can give, and we love when you give your time and your talent, but in this series, we are specifically talking about money. Learning to be generous with your money will change your life. We know that persuasive people like me can get you to give, okay? I can inspire you. I can manipulate you into giving. We can bring up the music and really pull on those heartstrings. Anybody who's ever been to a large Christian concert or conference knows what I'm talking about. The boys mentioned the IF Gathering this weekend, and I cannot wait. But I want you to know the IF Gathering, if you don't know what it is, it's Jenny Allen's sort of conference, and you can kind of buy the conference, and then you can actually play the conference sessions. But you get access to all of them. And the first thing I did was where's the one where they ask for money? Let's get that out of here. We're not going to play that one. That was the first thing we did when we went through those. Because generous people don't need to be sold. They don't need that heartstrings pulling moment. Generous people live guilt-free when it comes to those heartstring moments. Because they have premeditated their calculated emancipation of their personal finances to a designated cause. Generous people go way beyond random acts of giving. Generous people can hear a pitch and they can walk away guilt-free if it's not for them. And you may be sitting there and being like, that's crazy. I don't know how to live like that. I didn't even know that that was a possibility. Just stick with us. I think most Americans feel financial pressure. Not to be generous. Most Americans feel financial pressure from any number of issues, from credit card debt to being upside down on a house or a vehicle or both, from keeping up with the Joneses or buying things just to comfort yourself when you're stressed out. There are lots of reasons that we feel financial pressure, but they all have the same root cause. Most Americans feel financial pressure because they've never lived to be generous, never learned to be generous, never learned to live generously. This is not because of a lack of money, it's because we've never learned to live generously. And before we dive into this too much deeper, I want you to know that you are the measurement. You are the measurement of whether or not you have a problem. So if this hits you right between the eyes, please don't come at me. I don't even handle the money in our house. Okay, I don't want to talk about yours. I'll talk about being generous, but I don't want to talk about your money. The word most associated with money, the word that pops into people's minds when you say the word money, the first word is worry. Will I have enough to retire? Will I have enough to buy a ring? Will I have enough to buy a house? Will I have enough to save? Will I have enough to catch up? Will I have enough to get ahead? Will I have enough to ever get out of debt? We just worry and worry and worry and worry and worry and worry and worry. Most Americans, no matter how much money they have, at some level are worried. Okay? They're worried. And so I didn't want to make 1,096 slides today. Okay? That seemed like a really rude thing to do to our production team. So we have worry, right? Oh, no, hang on. I planned this out yesterday. It has to go in this corner right here. Worry. So we have worry, okay? And we have worry because we are spending all of our time spending more than we make. Spending more than we make. And when you'll see why we ended up doing it this way, okay? So we're spending more than we make, which doesn't make any sense. We're like worried, when am I gonna have enough? Am I gonna have enough? Am I gonna have enough? And so we're so worried, we're like, I'm gonna stress myself out, so I better go on Amazon and chill out for a little bit, right? Is that just me? So what we end up doing is we spend everything that comes our way. We end up spending more than what we make. And as a result of that, we end up in, do you know what we end up in? Debt, yes. We end up in debt. And that's crazy, right? We end up in debt. We end up in debt for things that we're not even using anymore, but we're still paying for. Pastor Matt used this graphic last week. See, there's a lot of visuals this week, guys. We have the moment of purchase at the cost of the item, and if we are buying it on credit, it's just going to keep going up and up and up and up and up, but the value goes down as we go forward. When we buy on credit, we don't pay it off immediately. The value goes down, but the cost, what we end up paying, actually goes up from the moment that we take possession. And that's crazy. So we start with worry, so we end up spending more than we make, then we end up in debt, and then we end up in a really scary place to live, and some of you know exactly what I mean when I say this. We end up with no margin in our lives, in our financial lives, in our actual lives. We end up with no margin. Margin is wiggle room, okay? Margin is that just in case money. And if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know if I have margin or not. If you are one automotive repair away from financial disaster, if your water heater going out is going to bankrupt you, if August is going to be a really thin month because you had to buy school supplies and shoes and clothes for your kids, then you're probably living with no margin. And when you have no financial margin, guess what ends up happening? You worry. And you stress yourself out, and then you spend more than you make, and then you get into debt, and then you have no margin. And do you see? We end up on this crazy train. It's a crazy train. We're all about the cute today, guys. We're all about the cute today. We end up on this crazy train. And speaking of the crazy train, I saw on TikTok last week this young girl, and she's like, you guys, guess what? I just got these new jeans, and you're never gonna believe this. They're tight all the way down. Skinny jeans are back. Okay, they weren't gone for very long. No, I know, okay? So if you took all your skinny jeans last year to Goodwill and you bought wide leg jeans on a credit card that you haven't paid off yet, you're still gonna be paying on jeans that you haven't even paid off yet, that you're not gonna wear because skinny jeans are superior to wide leg jeans in every sense of the word, right? Okay, this is crazy, right? And all God's millennials were like, amen, skinny jeans are the best. I walked around Ball State University with wet pants for 4 years. Skinny jeans are where it's at, okay? Guys, grown-ups, stop spending money on pants. Unless they are worn out or they don't fit, pick a pair that flatters your body and forget about what the children are wearing. You are never gonna keep up in a TikTok world anyway, okay? That's a crazy train. That's the crazy train, and it's gonna keep you crazy, okay? What happens when we are on this crazy train of worry and spending and debt and no margin and worry again? What happens is we're actually worried about future consumption. What we're actually worried about is our future consumption, okay? We're worried about our future consumption. And then that drives us to this crazy mindset where if it comes for me, it's for me, okay? And so that one's gonna go over here because this is this mindset. If it comes to me, then it has to be for me. And so I'm gonna spend more than I make because I need it, right? Okay? And then that's a really dangerous mindset because all that's going to lead to is not just debt, but it's not good debt, okay? A house is good debt. Sometimes student loans are good debt, sometimes not, okay? That's a different sermon. Actually, that's not a sermon, that's a TED Talk. But we end up with consumer debt, okay? And then we end up having no margin for our future consumption that we were worried about in the first place. Do you see that this is a crazy cycle? This is a crazy train that we want to be on. Because think about this. Think about how much more money you would need to get off the crazy train. Would you need 10% more? 15% more? 20% more? What if you went into work tomorrow and you got a 25% raise? Do you really think that would fix it? Has anybody ever gotten a raise that big before? Did it fix it? Did it fix it? When it comes to our income, we tend to be goldfish. We tend to grow to the size of the container that we're in. We spend everything that comes our way and sometimes more, no matter how much money we make. And the problem is, guys, is that this is not a money problem. If you're sitting there and you're like, oh, we talked about money problems at work today. This isn't a money problem. This is a spiritual problem. This isn't a money problem. This is a spiritual problem. And that spiritual problem really stems from a self-control problem. Okay? This is when you're saying anything for you, princess, to yourself. Okay? This is a self-control problem. How much money would you need to make in order to be completely out of credit card debt? How much more money would you need in order to be able to pay cash for things like cars? How much money would you need to be out of debt entirely? 10% more wouldn't do it. 15% more isn't gonna do it. 25% more. Most of us are never gonna see a 25% raise in our lives. Except for the tribe staff this year. Tribe staff's actually gonna get a pretty good raise this year. That's an if you know joke. The tribe staff is volunteer. So a 25% raise on $0 is still $0. Okay? How much money would it take to? The answer, no matter where you're sitting financially, is way more money than you're ever gonna make at one time. Way more money than you're ever gonna make at one time. So as your income goes up, so do those crazy habits. So do these crazy habits. This is not a money issue. This is a spiritual issue that comes from a self-control issue that's really a contentment issue. This is really a contentment issue. If you're wondering if you're having contentment problems in your life, if you already have a Christmas list going, maybe, okay? It's not a money issue. How much money would it take to create financial margin for your family? Would it take 10% more, 20% more? Even if you got a 3% raise this year, is 3% going to start going into savings? Are you going to start tithing 3% more? No. Chipotle is going to see a 3% increase if you get a 3% increase. Target's going to see a 3% increase. Amazon is going to see a 3% increase. This is not a money problem. This is a contentment problem. And really, at the end of the day, it all kind of stems from this issue of discipline. It's a discipline problem. It's a discipline problem. And that's the chart. Yay! Whew. Guys, I'm sweaty. That was a lot. Worry is not a money problem. Worry is a spiritual problem. When Jesus talked about worry in the New Testament, he didn't say, to overcome your worry, just make more money. He did say, you have to put your trust not in riches, but in the one who richly provides. This isn't a money problem. This is a spiritual problem. And this is crazy. And if you've been living this for the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you know this is crazy, and you know it's a cycle. You know that it just keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. Most Americans, most Westerners, we are crazy when it comes to money. We worry, and then we spend, and then we have debt, and then we have no margin, and then we worry again, and it starts all over again. And guys, it is time to get off the crazy train. Because there's a better way to live. There's a better way to be crazy. One more hard truth. More money does not generate more self-control. More money does not generate more discipline. More money does not generate more contentment. So if you've been believing just a little bit more, it's time to let that dream die, because this is not a money problem. It's a self-control problem that stems from a contentment problem that at the end of the day is a discipline problem. There are people who are extraordinarily rich who have done extraordinarily dumb things because they lack self-control. The reason that you think self-control, discipline, and contentment are about money is because you have been living in a crazy world. And this crazy world has been telling you this is the way your entire life. You probably watched your parents live out some sort of this crazy cycle your entire life. And the more money is not the answer. I wish it was. If it was, this would be a sermon on how to side hustle your way to financial success. But it's not. It's about contentment and generosity, and how those concepts go hand in hand. Generous people have ordered their lives around generosity, and they are not driven by this crazy train. They're not driven by what we sometimes call the consumption assumption, which is, if it comes to me, it's for me, which is how we end up spending more than we make because we have no self-control. We have that idea that if it comes to me, it's for me, and if I'm in a really good mood or the story is really compelling, I might participate in a random act of giving, but I'm not going to give you so much that it affects my crazy lifestyle and my crazy approach to my finances. And if you're here today and you're a Jesus follower, Jesus calls this whole crazy train way of thinking greed. Jesus' view of greed was, if your assumption is that it's all for you, that it's all for your consumption, you are greedy. When I was a teacher, I had a stapler that was given to me by my school. I actually had that in every school I ever taught at. I taught in really, really rich schools, really, really poor schools. No matter what, school provides a stapler. But that stapler wasn't for me to take home. It was for me to use when I was at school. If another teacher's stapler broke, they might come to my room and they might say the words, "Can I borrow your stapler?" But we both knew that that stapler didn't actually belong to me. It's not really mine. The purpose of the stapler was to make teaching and learning easier for me and my students. But it never belonged to me. And I never took a stapler when I left a school. This is the place that we need to get to with our money and with our stuff. This is what keeps us from being greedy with it when we're like, you know what? This is mine to use while I'm here, but ultimately it belongs to someone else. When I say greedy, I think a lot of people think of like Scrooge McDuck diving into big piles of money, charging 10,000 coins for earrings in Dreamlight Valley. It was a really niche joke, but like I made 4 people really happy with it, so I'm okay with it. Greed isn't that. Greed is anyone who thinks that everything that they have belongs to them, that it's all for them and that it's just for them. Generosity is the attitude that you are just the manager of the stuff that you have and the money that comes your way. And that is the attitude that this church has been built on. Last year, we gave away about 20% of everything that came in the door. We gave it right back out. Our goal is 50% ultimately, and we're working our way to get there. Are we at 23% for this year? Roughly, okay. But we're not doing that through random acts of giving. And so when people call us, and they call us, and they're like, hey, I need money for this, hey, I need money for that, it's really easy to say, I'm sorry, we can't do that, because we give through premeditated, calculated, designated emancipation of personal finance. We're in our churchical finances. Personal finances, no? Is that a no from you? Dr. Dilly says no. This year, as part of our premeditated, calculated, designated emancipation of personal financial assets, all of our money raised in this month is going to go towards gift kindness. I know that this is a little bit confusing because, like, it's Plainfield, so it's just be kind and gift kindness and give hope, and it's a little bit confusing. So just to make it a little bit easier, I put it on a sticker. And it says, you can't probably see it, it says give hope, and she's going to kill me, but it's Fonda's handwriting. Gift Kindness is an organization that discreetly slips food into the backpacks of Plainfield kiddos who might otherwise not have a ton to eat over the weekend. They provide simple meals and snacks that are easy for children to prepare. And as a former educator, this is huge for hungry kids, not having to worry about whether or not they're going to have enough to eat for the weekend or even over those long breaks. It's such a comfort to those kids, especially the older ones like the 5th graders. I am so excited to be working with this organization because they are like us. They are based in Plainfield, and they are tiny but mighty. And we have the opportunity to make such a huge difference to an organization of this size by doing really simple things that you can do from your house. Like just by liking them on Facebook is a great thing to do. Commenting, sharing their posts that they have can help to get the word out about what they're doing. They currently have, as of this morning, they have 329 likes on Facebook. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I've got some great people who are going to pass out these stickers. I want you to get out your phone and like Gift Kindness on Facebook. To worry. Greed is always that idea of everything I have is mine and it's just for my use. That is always going to lead to discontentment. It's always going to lead to discontentment. It's going to keep us on the crazy trains. It doesn't matter how many zeros you have, from $10 to $1 billion. This is not a money problem. This is a contentment problem. Think about this. Most financial worry is the result of not of wanting what we can't get, but most financial worry is the result of wanting what we can't get, not needing what we don't have. It's not that we don't have the things that we need. Most of our financial angst is not because we can't get what we need. One of the things that my dad always said growing up is, if it's a problem that can be solved with money, it is not a problem. And most of us don't have money problems. We have contentment problems. Or we had contentment problems in the past, and now we have money problems. But they're a result of contentment nonetheless. Most of the financial tension that comes from us, not from us getting what we want, not because we're not getting what we need, because we're living crazy. Because even if you got that thing, whatever it is, the car, the house, the vacation, the shoes, the bag, the clothes, as soon as you got it, you would want the next one. Listen to me. I don't want you walking out of here feeling guilt and shame because, like every other American, you have bought into this crazy cycle. You didn't choose this. You were handed this by your parents, by the people you admired growing up, by society, by social media. They have delivered this crazy train up to you on a silver platter. So instead of feeling guilt and shame that we got caught up in this when we didn't know any better, because most of us got started with this when we didn't know any better, let's just learn to be generous. It's so much easier to learn when you take that guilt and that shame off. It's the same thing we're doing with gift kindness. When you take away that, like, am I going to get enough to eat? Am I going to get enough to eat? Am I going to get enough to eat from a kid? They can learn better. And it's the same thing with us. If you take away that guilt and that shame, you're going to be able to learn how to do this better. Organizing your financial life around generosity. It crushes that consumption assumption. It gets you out of this crazy cycle, and it stops that way of thinking if it comes to me, then it's just for me. And if you're sitting there and you're asking yourself, like, but what are we supposed to do? Like, just tell me what to do. Next week, Pastor Matt is going to get super, super, super practical, which he loves. So I know. If you're laughing, you're like, no, I'm the one that's like, I love those practical sermons. I love sermons that stretch us, though. So I'm excited for him next week. Do not mix next week. He's going to do so good. He's my favorite preacher. But before we get to the practical side, we have to retrain our brains and learn to think differently, because generous people think completely differently. They are not on this crazy train. And so when you are used to this crazy train, thinking that everything that comes your way is for you, it's all about you, it's about your wants and your needs, then the generous people are thinking totally differently. They're thinking about all of their stuff, like I thought about the stapler that I had at school. Yeah, it's mine technically, but not really. It's for me to use, but ultimately it belongs to someone else. And when you can get to a place in your life where you think like that, with all of your stuff, with all of your money, that's when things in your life are going to get really crazy. That's when you're going to realize that your stuff and your money is not just about you, that it's about what you can do for others. And that's when you're going to be able to get off of this crazy train. So one day, Jesus is walking along, and he's talking to his guys, and he gives them this parable. A parable is a story that's not true, but it's used to make a point. He made up some fake people in order to impact some real people. And he uses a parable to speak not just to his audience at the time, but through the ages to us, which I think is really cool. And he says, the ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. Even 2,000 years ago, the rich could do that thing where they turned more money into more money. That's such a cool thing to do. I'm going to learn to do it someday. A rich guy has a bumper crop, like he's got more than he's ever had before. And he thought to himself, what shall I do? What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. I have so much stuff. I have to get a storage unit. I have so much stuff that my attic is full and my basement is full. And we need a bigger house to keep all of this stuff in. Just a quick sidebar. One of the things that I've loved in the last couple of years is the rule of 20. The rule of 20 says if it can be replaced for less than $20 in less than 20 minutes, you can let it go. It doesn't mean to get rid of everything in your house that you can replace for less than $20 in less than 20 minutes, because none of us would have any cooking utensils at all if we did that. But if you're looking at an object, like we were looking at a suitcase last night, and we were like, do we keep this, do we not keep this? I got on Amazon, I was like, oh, it's like $20 to replace this thing. Out the door, we don't need that. Back to our story. The fact that this guy was rich did not make him more generous. It just made him richer. And that's kind of sad, right? It just gave him the opportunity to do what he'd always done on a bigger level. He made the assumption that so many of us make: if it comes to me, then it's for me. And he says, I know what I'll do. This is what he says. He's like, I know what I'm going to do. He makes a plan. And if you've been around here for a minute, you know that Pastor Matt and I love board games. One of my least favorite things that happens when I'm playing a board game is I'll sometimes have my next 2 or 3 moves planned out, and someone will have the audacity to win. It's so frustrating because I knew what I was gonna do. I had it all planned out, and all of a sudden it's just over. I get so upset when that happens. And the rich man in Jesus' story, he has it all planned out. He knows what he's going to do. He has a plan. He's got his next moves planned out. He's going to keep living the way he's always lived. He says, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I will store my surplus grain. I'll save it now and I'll consume it later. Because it came to me, so it must be for me. I'll save it now and consume it later. Have you ever thought like this? This is what crazy people do. They don't take anyone else into consideration. And the rich man, he says, and I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. He has his next move plans out. He is golden. He is winning. He knows what's going to happen. Many of us, if we went back 20 or 30 years, would be surprised by the dollar amount that we are earning in 2023. If you could go back to your 20-year-old self and tell you how much money you make now, 20-year-old you would probably be excited. You make how much money? You make that an hour? You make how much money? You make that in a year? You have a whole, that's just 1 year? Oh my gosh. 20-year-old you would probably thinking, I bet 40 or 50-year-old me is debt-free, worry-free, eat, drink, and be merry. 20-year-old you would be shocked at the way that you're living. You make that much money and you are still worried? You have that much money and you still have debt? What? How? How? You make that much money and you aren't content? You're not merry? What? You have a computer in your pocket? What? Why? How? Because all through the years, the way you play the game has never changed. You just got bigger toys. You just got better stuff. And a lot of you never got rid of the just okay stuff you had the first time. You're just stockpiling and stockpiling and stockpiling them. And God looks at him and he says, you fool. Because the man, he assumed it was all consumable. It was all disposable income. Think about those words. Imagine going to a third world country and trying to explain the words consumable, disposable income. This is my consumable, disposable income. This is the money I can spend on stupid stuff. And it's all stupid, by the way, no matter what it is. And that's okay. You can like your thing that you like. That's okay. But it does keep us stuck on this crazy train when we can't be content. It's going to lead to worry. It's going to lead to spending more than we make. It's going to lead to debt. It's going to lead to more margin. It's going to lead right back to worry. But God says to him, you fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. You are about to be unalived, as they say on TikTok. And he had all of his next move planned out, but it didn't matter because the game was over. He thought all of that stuff guaranteed him time. He assumed that he was saving it for himself, and that having it meant that it was for him to use later. He thought he was going to have enough time to consume everything. He just assumed it was for him. But that night, his life was going to be demanded of him. And in this next part, Jesus asks all of us this question through this parable. He says, then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? And this answer is the same for the rich man as it is for us today. It's someone else. Somebody else is going to use it. Not because he was generous, because he was dead. It turns out it wasn't his income that was consumable and disposable. The game is over, and all of this stuff that he has saved up for himself, somebody else is going to consume it. And Jesus steps right back out of the parable, and he looks into our eyes because he uses the future tense here. He says, this is how it will be. What this guy went through is how it's going to be for all of us. Total loss. We come into this world with nothing, and we leave it with nothing. And we are so worried about the future. And yet somehow we are never content with what we have. This is how it will be for those who store up things for themselves but are not rich towards God. What does it mean to be rich towards God? Jesus is pretty clear. Being rich towards God means giving your stuff away. Last year, after our Give Hope series, after a sermon kind of like this one, Keith and Linda Bohannon came to me with a box. And they said, you inspired us to get rid of some of our stuff that we've been hanging on to. Do you want these? And they opened that box, and inside, it was very heavy. Inside was a bunch of old movie reels. And Keith and Linda had no way of knowing in that moment that we had already decided to do a retro at the movies, and they had just given us a perfect set piece. There should be a picture. Look how cute. That was the Breakfast Club. Do you see how they're perfect, right? They were so good. They saved us both time and money in April for something that we were going to use in November. When you are rich towards the people that Jesus loves, you are rich towards Jesus. I love it when people do stuff for me. I really do. But when you do stuff for my kids, oh my goodness, when you do stuff for my kids, one of the best ways to love the way that Jesus loved is to love the people who Jesus loved. Your heavenly Father who owns nothing, who needs nothing and owns everything, says that you are rich towards me when you are rich towards others. Generous people don't assume that it's theirs to consume. This is the epicenter of what we're talking about in this series. When Keith and Linda gave us those movie reels, they had no idea that they were kind of giving us a box of hope. Because when you're a church planter and it's April and you're thinking about November and you're just like, man, I hope we make it to November. Like, someone hands you a set piece for November, you're like, oh, God is smiling on us. We're going to make it. It's going to be okay. No matter what happens in the next 6 months, and some stuff happened in the next 6 months, like, we're going to be okay. It was like they gave us a box of hope, and this is what we do when we give things away, when we give our stuff away, when we give our monies away. We're not just giving things away, we are giving hope away. And you know that if you've ever been given a gift by a generous person, their stuff is nice. Their stuff is good, it's well cared for, because generous people who have organized their life around generosity, they don't assume that it's theirs to consume. So they take care of their stuff so that someone else can benefit from it. Jesus defies our notion of ownership by appealing to our common sense here. It's basically, if it can be taken away, you never really owned it. If somebody else is eventually going to possess it, and you ultimately can't control where it ends up, you are just the manager. You are not the owner. And there's a handful of people who understand this on a deep, visceral level. If you've ever been one of those people, or you know someone who's lost everything, you know that you don't own anything. The average home can be engulfed in 5 minutes. Losing everything in a tornado takes even less time. One of my former students and Jackson's good friend Aubrey, they lost almost all of their possessions in a flood. A flood happened within their house, like not outside their house. Their house literally flooded. And she had this to say. I called her this week. She had this to say about her family's flood. She said, at first, it was definitely extremely hard. I love that. Doesn't that sound like a teenager? Now it's easier because we had so many people who helped us and supported us as we put our home back together. And I feel like there's definitely a freedom of knowing that I'm not going to have to deal with all that stuff when I'm older. My conversation of Aubrey reminded me of so many of the times that I've heard people struggle with losing a parent. Because there's the first part of losing a parent, which is always hard. And then there's the second part, which is cleaning out their house, which is absolutely devastating. I love this comic. One day, son, this will all be yours. Ooh. If you've ever had to go through an entire house after someone dies, you know it's devastating because there's just so much. And we're going to keep some of it and sell some of it and give some of it away, and some of it we're going to store because I don't know why. Some of it's just going to get thrown away. And as you work through that process, you find yourself wanting to get rid of all of your stuff too, because as you go through closet after closet and drawer after drawer of stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, none of this matters. We are just managers. It's not really ours. Like, it's not going with you. Like, you can't take it with you. And that attitude is how generous people think every single day. And they think that because it's true. They think that because it's true. And Jesus' point here is simple. Since it's all going to be taken away, why would you miss the opportunity to give it away? Since it's all going to be given away, taken away, why would you live like this? Why would you keep living like this? That's crazy. When you could stop living like this and have contentment and be a blessing to other people. You know what's crazy? Living your life like you own all of your stuff and like it's only yours to consume. When you live like this, it is always going to lead to discontentment every single time. But just for the next week, I want you to practice thinking in a different way. Generous people think like managers, not like owners and consumers. Next week's going to get really practical, but just for a week, I want you to try to think like a manager, okay? Think about that rule of 20, because eventually all your stuff is going to be boxed up and thrown away anyway. Like think about what it would mean to live open-handedly. Because if you don't, you're just going to keep worrying and spending and debting and no margining and then worrying again, and the whole thing is going to just keep going and going and going. I believe that God has called you to live as more than a consumer. And that's what happens when you organize your life around generosity. You are financially free. You become financially free. And that's how God wants us to live. Ready to give through the premeditated, calculated, designated emancipation of personal finances, right where you're at. That's how God wants us to live. We called this series Give Hope, and as we were going through that process, we were like, Fonda, like, we went to Fonda, we were like, how do we name this thing? Because we knew that Give Life wasn't going to work this year. And she was like, let's call it Give Hope. And I was just like, that's so perfect. Because when we live like this, when we give, we really are giving hope. That's what you're giving to other people. You're giving them hope. Hey, you're going to make it through this next season. I know it's going to be hard. I've lived through a hard season. You're going to make it. You're going to be okay. And that's what we're doing. Because when we live generously, when we give generously, there's always hope. Let's pray. God, I thank you for hope. I thank you for showing us that there is a better way to live, a way that doesn't keep us worried and stressed, but gives us freedom because we know that none of this is ours anyway. I pray for opportunities for people to be generous, and I pray that you would give them the courage to be generous. Help us to see our stuff not as ours forever, but as ours to manage, and help us to be content. Guide us off this crazy train and into your crazy way of living generously. In your name we pray. Amen.
This is one of my favorite Sundays.
What are you wearing?
Exactly. How great is this?
You look different than last time when I was up
That
here.
I can come to a place every week and I get to wear things like this and eat ice cream.
That's pretty
Did you
good.
say ice cream? I said ice cream.
You said ice cream. Well, I got some ice cream on my
You got
head.
some ice cream on you? Yes. What do you got?
Well,
Hopefully it doesn't take long because
I got a lot of stuff, so hopefully it's not. But I don't know. This is the way that we do things. You know, you got Fonda's worship, which, you know, that last song talking about the traditions and the
ice cream.
and the religion, and then you get Carrie's message about changing the way you think. And this is the second Sunday. This has killed me. Golly.
But it's all about getting out that crazy trade.
That's right.
That's about all I got.
I love it. I love it. So normally we do our giving and all that, but today I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
We're going to do special. We're pivoting. We're adapting. We're changing.
Pivot.
So I am not the only one that gets ice cream today.
Who else gets
Surprise,
ice cream?
everybody. It's Ice Cream Sunday.
Where is it?
Over at the cafe. Nathan's going to move the curtain. This love is the best thing we do.